After her sister Natasha died, Sanja began sleeping in the hospital. She returned home to wash her clothes a few days a month, but those days became fewer and fewer. No reason to return, no need to wash her clothes. She only wears hospital scrubs anyway. She wakes on a cot in the trauma unit. She sleeps there intentionally in anticipation of the next critical patient. Some days rose by the shuffle of footsteps, the cries of family members. She stands and a body takes her place in the cot, and she works on resuscitation, knowing she is awake because she could dream nothing like this.
A man is waiting to see you.
A nurse says. Sanja is still on the cot, rubs the weariness from her eyes.
About what?
The nurse hesitates.
He's right out here.
A minute later, in the hallway, the man introduces himself.
My name is Amed.
He speaks Russian without an accent, but by now, Sanja feels more comfortable conversing in Chechen. A short beard descends from Ahmed's face. For a moment, she thinks he's a religious man, then remembers that most men have grown their beards out. Few have shaving cream, fewer have mirrors. The war has made the country's cheeks and chins devout. He gestures to a small girl, no older than 8, standing beside him.
My wife and I cannot care for her.
Ahmed says,
You must take her.
This isn't an orphanage. There are no orphanages.
The request is not uncommon. The hospital receives humanitarian aid, has food, and clean water. Most important, it tends to the injured regardless of ethnicity or military affiliation, making the hospital one of the few larger buildings left untargeted by either side in the war. Newly injured arrive each day, too many to care for. Sanja shakes her head. Too many dying. She cannot be expected to care for the living as well.
Her father was taken by the rebels on Saturday. On Sunday, the army came and took her mother.
Sanja looks at the wall calendar, as if a date could make sense of the times.
Today is Monday.
She says.
I was a medical student before the war.
Ahmed says, switching to Chechen.
In my final year, I will work here until a home is found for the girl.
Ahmed glowers. Sanja often sees defiance from rebels and occasionally from soldiers, but rarely from civilians.
I can't.
She says, but her voice falters, her justifications failing. Sanja surveys the corridor. A handful of patients, but no doctors. Those with money, with advanced degrees and the foresight to flee the country, have done so.
Parents decide which of their children they can afford to feed on which days. No one will take this girl.
Sanja says.
Then, I will keep working.
Does she speak?
Sanja looks to the girl.
What's your name?
Hava.
Ahmed answers. 6 months earlier, Sanja's sister, Natasha, was repatriated from Italy. When Sanja heard the knock and opened the door, she couldn't believe how healthy her sister looked. She hugged her sister, joked about the padding on her hips. Whatever horrors Natasha had experienced in the West, she'd put fat around her waist.
I'm Mom,
Natasha said, holding the hug longer than Sanja thought necessary. They ate dinner before the sun went down, potatoes boiled over the furnace. The army had cut the electric lines 4 years earlier. They had never been repaired. Sanja showed her sister to the spare room by candlelight, gestured to the bed.
This is the place you sleep, Natasha.
They spent the week in a state of heightened civility. No prying questions. All talk was small. What Sanja noticed, she did not comment on. A bottle of ribavirin antiviral pills on the bathroom sink. Cigarette burns on Natasha's shoulders. Sanja worked on surgeries, and Natasha worked on sleeping. Sanja brought food home from the hospital, and Natasha ate it. Sanja started the fire in the morning, and Natasha slept. Mornings, and there were nights. This is life, Sanja thought. Amed is true to his word. 5 minutes after Sanja accepts the girl, he is washed and suited in scrubs. Sanja takes him on a tour of the hospital. All but 2 wings are closed for the lack of staff. She shows him the cardiology, internal medicine, and endocrinology wards. A layer of dust covers the floors, their footprints leaving a trail. Sanja thinks of the moon landing, how she saw the footage for the first time when she arrived in London.
Where is everything?
Amed asks. Beds, sheets, hypodermics, disposable gowns, surgical tape, film dressing, thermometers, IV bags, forceps. Any item of practical medical use is gone. Empty cabinets, open drawers, locked rooms, closed blinds, taped over windows panes. The stale air remained.
The trauma and maternity wards, and we're struggling to keep them both open.
Amed runs his fingers through his beard.
Trauma. That's obvious. You have to keep trauma open. But the maternity?
Sanja's laughs rings down the empty hall.
I know. It's funny, isn't it? Everyone is either giving birth or dying.
No.
Amed shakes his head, and Sanja wonders if he's offended by her.
They are leaving the world and it's happening here.
Sanja nods, wonders if Amed is religious after all.